Concept 9, functions. This is on page 1.40. A function is a pre-written formula that performs certain types of calculations automatically. And on 1.41, there's a whole list of different functions. And we won't use very many of the functions in here. Excel is a very powerful program that you can do a lot with, but we're only going to scratch the surface and give you some basic understanding in this class. So we're going to move to B9. This is on page 1.42. So we go to B9. And we're going to find our AutoSum button. And this is in your Home tab in the editing group, and it's right here. It's AutoSum. And this is one you should get very familiar with. We're going to use it a lot. So I'm going to click on AutoSum, and you can see it populates a formula that says equals sum, parentheses B4 colon B8. So that's the syntax. That's the way the formula reads. And you can see you get an area here. And I can adjust this if I want to, include something else. But typically it'll find exactly what I want it to do. And all I have to do is hit enter. And I have the formula in. I can then, of course, copy this function across, just as I did before, because we have those relative references. It will find out the proper answers for each of these, and you can copy in any method you like. After you've done that, we're going to go to min, max, and average, starting in cell F3. So MIN, tab over, MAX, tab over, and AVG. And these are a few other types of functions that we have. We're going to go to F4, and we're going to come back up to our AutoSum, but rather than hitting the button this time, we're going to hit that drop-down arrow next to it. And we'll see that one of our options is min. And we'll click on min, and what min does here is it's going to find the minimum figure. And it's important to note here that it automatically selects totals, and we don't want to use totals. We just want to use B4, C4, and D4. So we're going to redraw the range, and you'll see that now E4 is not selected. And then I'll hit enter. And what it does is it finds the minimum figure in that range. And of course we can copy that down. We then can come over to max, and G4 will find the formula, again in the drop-down list for AutoSum, as max. And this does the opposite. Once again, we want to make sure we redraw our range, and then hit enter. We'll find that the max was 1420, 14,200. Now we can again copy this down. Finally, we'll come over to H4 for average, and once again, we'll find in the drop-down list average, and sum and average are really the only ones we're going to use. We're going to use min and max right now just to show you, but then we won't use those again in this lab. So at average, once again, and this is the most important because typically we see total and then average, and people forget to redraw it, and we can include the total. And then, of course, if you include the total when you do the average, then your average will actually be 2 times higher than what it is. So make sure you draw the proper range, hit enter, and then again you can copy the formula down. Once I've copied all of those formulas down, I'm then going to select B12 through D12. So down here, B12 through D12, and I'm going to type in equals B4 times, which is the star button, 25% plus, I'm going to click on B5 times 30% plus, I'm going to click on B6, 60%. And then I'm going to hit Control Enter to finish the formula. And you can see because I have all three of these cells selected in the range, it's done the same calculations for each one, and the relative references, of course, taken effect. And so what this is saying is my cost of good equals 25% of espresso, 30% of coffee, and 60% of food and beverages. So there is a cost of goods formula. Next, we're going to do the cost of merchandise. So we're going to select the range B13 through D13 and start it with an equal sign again. This time we're going to click on B7, and then we're going to multiply this, so star, 70%, and then we hit Control Enter. And so we find out our cost of goods is equivalent to 70% of our merchandise. Next, we're going to select B12 through E19. So B12 through E19. And what's neat about this is we've got all of our data selected here, and we have our total columns and our total rows. And all I have to do is hit the auto sum button, and the computer knows what I want to do, and it automatically gives me totals in both directions. So I always think that's kind of neat. It's a very intelligent program. Then I'm going to select B22 through E22, and I'm going to type in this formula, equals B9 minus B19. Control Enter. And what this is saying is my net income equals my total sales minus my total expenses. And then we can find what our net income is. Finally, to find out our profit margin, we're going to select B24 through E24 and use this formula, equals B22 divided by B9. Our profit margin is our net income divided by our total sales.